behind the scenes work that's necessary to functionally and happily live together most of the time. You know, I think most of us, well, all of us have families, and those don't always work perfectly, and probably most of us have had a roommate at some point in our life. And I would say, like, a lot of us, if you've had roommates, you know that there are always problems. And, yeah, and if you, a lot of the work that goes into intentional communities is figuring out how to mitigate those problems, how to, you know, resolve conflict. You know, having multiple tools in your toolbox to work together to succeed in your common purpose. So that's just a little bit about, I guess, what intentional communities are, if you're kind of unclear. There are different types of intentional communities. She covered them briefly. You have, I guess, along the lines of permaculture, I mean, all communities could be considered kind of within the realm of permaculture. You're working more cooperatively, you're working in shared space. You, I guess you're just, you know, sharing resources, which ultimately benefits everybody involved, hopefully. Kind of from the top down as far as sustainability, eco-villages are ones with, you know, very defined principles that help guide them towards a sustainable lifestyle. So an example is, and I should have printed off their print covenants, but Dancing Rabbit Eco-Village in Missouri. And they're pretty cool because they're right next to 4 other communities that could all be considered eco-villages, but they all have different ways of organizing their communities, the physical locations of buildings and how they relate to one another. But Dancing Rabbit has, you know, stated principles. So they have maybe 6 or so principles that are basically, you know, law of the land type of way. And after that, it's like we'll figure it out as we go. And it's pretty cool, you know, they share between, it's like 90 individuals, they share 3 cars. They are completely off the grid, like, so they have decentralized energy cooperatives that are, you know, that's energy being produced on site, so like through wind power, and that's distributed to all these naturally built homes that they all built themselves, which work or don't work sometimes. So, you know, they started there as a blank piece of land with like, you know, 6 committed individuals who moved from California, I think from Berkeley, and started from scratch. And their goal is to get to an eco-village, so a village, what they consider a traditional European village, size of about 500 people. So where a lot of your services that a village would normally meet, so let's say, like, you know, think back 1600s, you have your blacksmith, you have your woodworker, you know, your essential community services are all met through the village. And that's roughly for them, I mean, that's kind of the direction that they're headed, but it's kind of tied into the modern world. So they, you know, they're in rural Missouri, like 3 hours from St. Louis, in the middle of, I think it's Mennonite country, so they have cool influences from the Mennonites, and they're really good friends, but they also are all from places where we're all from, you know. They're from cities and suburbs, and they still use technology like most of us do. But they use it at probably like they use 1/10 the amount of energy that a traditional American household uses as a collective group. It might be less than that, but, you know, they've actually crunched the numbers and done like an eco audit at their place. So there are places like that. There are housing cooperatives that you find in a lot of like university towns. You know, that's a lot of people's like first introduction to communities, is they join a housing cooperative when they go to college, and like it's a way to have cheap rent and also have a good time and meet a lot of people, and, you know, and share a lot of stuff, good times. There's co-housing communities. Those are kind of a European model of like a modern European model where you have a lot of clustered housing. It's you know, of course it comes from Europe, where you have a super landlocked, hyper-populated, you know, place. So they figured out, like, how are we going to keep our farmland and not, you know, bulldoze everything and build McMansions on it. Well, we're going to build smaller houses, cluster them, and have common space that we share. So those are relatively new in the United States. I think at the time when this book was written, there were about 87 throughout the States and a bunch being built. There are plans. I know a woman, she wants to build one just north of here in Waldo, so if anyone wants information on that, let me know. And then there's one more, I'm forgetting.
Adrian, what's the name of that book once again?
The what?
The book's name,
This one? Her name is Diane Leaf Christensen, and it's called Creating a Life Together.